Thank you. Wherever that nebulous space is. But yes, so as Rachel mentioned, summer residency is accepting proposals. You can go to the website and see all the details for that. We are also in the very beginning stages of launching an exciting program with some of the food and beverage industry partners who we've collaborated with in the past in person. And we're pumped about that, but we can't tell you about it exactly yet, but be on the lookout for be on the lookout for that. I should say also, we are thrilled to have all of you join us tonight. One, to hear from Elizabeth Kadetsky, and two, to celebrate the publication of This Is What America Looks Like, which I know Caroline and Jonah put a lot of sweat and probably some tears into also, and it's much appreciated. Just a couple of things for how the evening will go. We really encourage you all to utilize the chat in as much as possible. We've tried to make the virtual events mirror our live events in terms of, kind of the banter and getting to check in with each other and support each other. So please react, respond, etc. through the chat, through your emojis, however you may like. We do also take a 10-minute intermission, and during that time we'll set up breakout rooms, which you are welcome to hang around and chat with each other for a few minutes, get to know a couple of people, or you can go pee, refill your drink, get food, pet your dog, whatever. You don't feel like you have to stick around, but it's an opportunity for those who may want to.
And I will just plug it. Everybody who does it really loves it, because it's not the breakout rooms that you have to do at work. It's actually fun because you can talk about writing and you can talk about what you've been up to. And we've all been cooped up in our homes and only talking to our partners and dogs, and cats. So it's a good opportunity to chat with like-minded individuals. That's all I'll say.
So I will go ahead and we're gonna pin each reader as it's their turn, and the order of readings tonight is the order in the program. So for those of you who are reading, you'll be able to see when you're on deck. And just give me a moment, because it sometimes takes a second to find everyone in the all the windows and boxes and things. But yeah, I think I'm done rambling. Jonah?
Wait, yeah, we're gonna have them say a few words, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jonah and Caroline, nothing formal, but just you chatted a little bit briefly as people were coming in, but if there's anything you'd like to share specifically about the anthology, the floor is yours.
Caroline, go ahead.
No, we are just so proud of all of the writers and their work. And I think I'm particularly excited when I read comments that it's wildly diverse and it's revolutionary and it's about how America shouldn't be and is in papers like the City Paper. And I'm just thrilled to be here with the Inner Loop. You're some of my favorite people, and I can't wait to hear the readers.
Yeah, I agree. It's a pleasure. Thank you, the Inner Loop, for having us. Totally great. This is, a lot of work to do this anthology. It was so much fun, and it was such a collaboration. And thank you to all the poets and the fiction writers who are going to read tonight. It's wonderful to see some of you for the first time, even virtually, after having read your work and being a fan of yours for so long. So thank you all very much.
Awesome, thank you guys. Okay, and without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Elizabeth, our featured reader for the evening. Elizabeth, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna add a spotlight to you here and unspotlight myself and tell everyone a little bit about you. So Elizabeth Kadetsky is a nonfiction editor at the New England Review. She's the author of the lyric memoir, The Memory Eaters, which just came out in 2020. Congratulations. And the novella, sorry, I'm like mixing up my screens here. The novella, On the Island at the Center of the World, the story collection, The Poison That Purifies You, and the memoir, First There Is a Mountain. And I'm sorry, my dog is chewing a bone in the background. Her fiction has been included in the Pushcart Prize, Best New American Voices, and the Best American Short Stories, notable citations. Her personal essays have appeared in the New York Times, Antioch Review, and elsewhere. Recent work can be found in Glimmer Train, Bennington Review, and Love Stories for Turbulent Times, a best of the previous 25 years of the Pushcart Prize. Elizabeth has received residency fellowships to the Carmichael Foundation, MacDowell, Vermont Studio Center, and elsewhere, and was a Margaret Bridgman Scholar at Breadloaf. She is an associate professor of creative writing at Penn State, and we are thrilled to have her with us this evening to kick off the reading.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Courtney and Rachel. Thank you for inviting me and for making this happen. And I just can't believe that we were planning this pre-pandemic, and it was such a disappointment, you know, for it to not happen. And then now it's happening, and I'm just so happy and excited about the anthology and to hear everyone's work coming up. So I'll just read a short excerpt. This is an essay collection of lyric personal essays called The Memory Eaters, and it won the Juniper Prize and came out last year. And I'll be reading from the first essay, so there shouldn't need to be any introduction, but I will just mention that my sister is a character, and her name is Jill, and my mother is one of the main characters, and she is Michelle. And my mother, at the time of writing, has fairly advanced Alzheimer's disease. So that's the context for the story I'm telling. And the story in this essay is about my family's Franco-American heritage and some of their romantic myths and falsehoods about what that meant. So this should be about 10 to 15 minutes. And this essay is called A Taxonomy of the Unknown. Oh, and ironically, this essay actually appeared in New England Review before I was an editor there, so it's kind of close to my heart because it's how I met the great team there. A Taxonomy of the Unknown. Perhaps because so many things disappeared in our family, records, memories, the rings from my mother's 2 marriages, the wedding silver, my mother undertook many quests for the past. Not her past or even our families per se, but past lives, past selves, genealogical doppelgangers. Because of her quests, I know about several of these imagined pasts, which don't quite make up for the evanescence of our tangible one, but at least give us a sense of shared history. For instance, we are said to be descended from Ambroise Paré. My mother, whose mother was a Paré, always said this was more than coincidence. The cousins had us believe that this supposed forebear, the doctor, they called him, invented ether, the gas, or rather discovered its usefulness in medical procedures. The family myth is perfectly suited to us, given that ether is more weightless than air, misty, celestial, and smelling of lightheadedness. There is no coincidence, my mother said. It turns out Paré's link to ether is probably not true, though it is true that before Paré, surgeries were performed without anesthetic. Paré discovered the use of local anesthesia for battlefield wounds, which made possible the discovery 3 centuries later of ether as a general anesthetic. In any case, it is said that Paré's battlefield innovations transformed medicine and brought it into the modern era. Before Paré, men wounded in battle often died of shock from pain, in part from the cauterizing of lost limbs. Paré also outmoded this practice. Paré was chief surgeon to 4 kings in 16th century France, as well as to Catherine de' Medici. His second discovery, hermaphroditism, formed the basis for his opus on monsters and marvels, and earned him the moniker demonologist. It was published in 1575 and reissued in the 19th century, and then by University of Chicago Press in 1982 as a touchstone for sexuality studies. His book is often cited in the same breath as Michel Foucault's Abnormal. I like to believe there are ancestral teachings to be gleaned from our supposed forebears' work on monsters as well as ether. Rather than to hide or deny what didn't belong, Paré gave it a place in the taxonomy of the known. This is a quote. There are several things that cause monsters. The first is the glory of God. The second, his wrath. The third, too great a quantity of seed. The fourth, too little a quantity. The fifth, the imagination. Rationality and the intangible play against each other in this passage, as if Paré can assure us that the uncomfortable or inexplicable is actually acceptable, a thing to observe and deconstruct, which is perhaps my own task. Do you know who your daughters are, Michel? The home care aide, Vita, shows my mother 2 portraits of Jill and me. Do you know their names? No, I don't, but don't worry. My mother turns to me. She takes my wrist and smiles. I don't know my name either. Really? I ask her, what is it? Mifu, something like that. But don't worry, I won't. She cuts off, searching for the words. Forget me? Forget you. She flits off in a dance, humming and pacing with a red carnation between her teeth. Her lipstick is red to match her scarf, which she draws wide across her arm span. Then she shifts to sashaying like she used to when she was a model on 7th Avenue runways. She frowns and brightens, then moves back across the apartment in a dance-like stride. She was never one to dwell on the negative. Later, out for a stroll by the Long Island City waterfront, we walk arm in arm. The Empire State Building casts a long shadow over Gantry Park. You're so pretty, my mother says, ignoring my questions, or maybe just hoping they'll dissipate. I love you. You should be so proud of yourself. Good for you, she adds, apropos of nothing. Don't ever get old. She leads me in a skipping motion, and then walking, she says, like she always says, beauty of the situation is, she directs me, but with hesitation now, down her block. Everything is always new. Beethoven, it's like I've never heard it before. A bird flying, everything. It's like seeing it for the first time. And in a crisis, I think all you need to do is pause until the knowledge returns of where you are or why. That's what she was doing the time she got lost, 10 hours after she went out to the store for milk. She was discovered pacing back and forth in front of a guard station at the Queensbridge housing projects, about 2 miles from home, waiting until it might come back to her, what she'd gone to the store for, where the store was, where was home. It was 3 a.m. Ambroise Paré was also a dabbler in alchemy, a more than passing interest for my mother over the course of her life. After she gave up modeling, my mother became a professional astrologer while also holding a day job at the Carl G. Jung Institute in Manhattan. Until about 2005, she co-edited and sometimes wrote for a journal called Urania, the Journal of the Uranian Society. One of her publications in the journal was a translation from, my French is pretty bad, L'astrologie et les sciences occultes, an examination of early Hermetic works on astrology, magic, and alchemy, according to my mother's preface. Other parts of the original, she wrote, treat the corpus hermeticum, the religious and philosophical documents of Hermeticism. Hermeticism and the occult suggest a sort of a hiding that was always in character for my mother: hermetic, reclusive, occult, secret. So I'm surprised when I receive an email seeking further information about her translation. The emailer attaches a PDF of my mother's published piece from the journal, an act that in itself seems to defy the very tradition that her translation describes. My mother's now 20-year-old preface went on to explain that the French text, dated 1942, was a translation from the classic Greek from a larger work focusing on the historical figure Hermes Trismegistus. Who was Hermes, this mythological figure to whom is attributed the foundation? Oh, sorry, that's my keyboard. To whom is attributed the foundation of Western occultism, quote, my mother asked, as if to suggest things hidden or kept from light. Earlier scholars, she posited, fastidiously dismissed the body of Hermetic magical texts as unworthy of consideration. Not so anymore. The emailer is a publisher of esoteric astrology books, and he asks me to pierce my mother's files, seeking background on l'astrologie, and hopefully further translations from the French. If I succeed, he will bring forth an edition of the entire project. He will bring it to light, published, public. I agreed to help, in part because of what happened over the spring, her getting lost. I've already shifted my mother's files to my apartment across the river in Manhattan to prepare her for her inevitable, imminent move to an assisted living center with full-time care. The files have pointed me to my own quest of sorts for a past I perhaps somehow missed. She is losing hours. I don't even know if she had hold of it to begin with. But if a history resides in her documents, so far they reveal a muddle. Their beguiling suggestion is that a past is right here for me, so easy to reconstruct, or that I might even locate an origin story for this illness. The very existence of these papers belies their confounding vagueness. The items fall in no particular order. Jill's and my report cards from when I was in first grade and Jill third, photos, notebooks and bills, pamphlets, and mimeographs on esoteric astrology that are not the sought-for French one, charts with makeshift financial planning, binder notebooks are jammed across the diagonals, snapshots line the bottoms. Presences mask absences. My mother was a collector of things that did not require collecting. I toss into the discard pile. Credit card offers from over a decade ago, one with a post-it, new credit cards, check out. Notes from conversations with tech support, used envelopes with information scrawled on the outside about Jill's health, handwritten tables tracking electrical use in her apartment in Long Island City. Modeling shots turn up, talismans for the quest. I create a makeshift gallery using my bookshelves, floorboards, kitchen counter. The photos are from 60s Boston and 70s and 80s New York. I put one on my desk from the early 60s before Jill and then I came along. And then in the kitchen, I place a more candid shot from the era when our mother worked for Pauline Trigère, a 70s doyenne, my mother's then protector and supporter. Snap, my mother is on a runway in a satin crepe and velvet evening gown, smooth as champagne. Snap, she is an Eastern princess in lace applique bridal gown beneath a wedding cake chandelier and waterfall marble stairway. They are merely records of single moments. Where are the moments in between? The clutter masks elisions, so much missing. On autopsy, the brain of the Alzheimer's patient can weigh as little as 30% of a healthy brain. The tissue really does grow porous. That brain has been described as looking like a loose hooked crochet. It is a sieve through which the past slips. Alzheimer's is about vacancy, but what excuses these files which ostensibly predate the Alzheimer's? This is I'll just read one more short section. No one has ever explained to me exactly how Ambroise Paré is related to us. I suspect my mother never probed the connection, its apparent rightness having ipso facto proved its validity for her. This can't explain the ardor of my mother's cousins, who drop references to Ambroise at every opportunity and in most cases keep on monsters on the shelf, if not the coffee table. It's nice to have a famous ancestor, one who helped along the evolution from Dark Ages to Enlightenment. As for our family's precise connection to Ambroise Paré, the cousins say while squinting, we are vaguely related. We have a dim connection. My mother's family goes back to the settlers of Quebec. That is more clear. The family is, as is said in Quebec, pure laine, 100% wool. The line is easily traced on my mother's maternal and paternal sides. Being pure wool is a point of pride for many French Canadians who boast one of the world's most active genealogical cultures and who constitute one of the Earth's most insular genotypes. According to one genetic study, 90% of Quebecois people can trace genes to the 17th century French founders, a group only about 1,500 strong. One night, parsing the documents, I discover a family tree in a file of my mother's marked Paré. This past clearly once meant a lot to her, though I'm not sure exactly why. She wasn't close to her immediate family, so why such pride of place for her ancestral one? It documents our Paray line going back to the French settlers, originating with one Robert Paray of France. I wonder if this Robert was, like Ambroise, significant to my mother for a reason, but no, he was not an alchemist, but merely a carpenter. Perhaps his usefulness to my mother was only to connect us to Ambroise, so I set about bridging genealogies between the two men. Ambroise was admitted to the Royal College of Surgeons in Paris in 1554. According to my excavations on genie.com, Robert, my great-grandfather to the ninth power, was married in a chapel in Quebec City in 1653, a century after Ambroise's admittance to the college. An obstacle arises. There are 5 generations missing between Robert's first trace and Ambroise's last. Ambroise's On Monsters so ardently pursues other mysteries that I wonder fancifully if perhaps it can illuminate this one. The cover depicts a one-legged, ostrich-clawed, winged and horned angel-like creature with a third eye in its knee and mermaid-like scales bedecking its torso, a drawing of the sort Ambroise commissioned for his research. Winged monster, it is labeled. According to the book's preface, Ambroise fathered 9 children, 4 of whom died as infants. Among 5 girls and 4 boys, the fates took all the boys. The longest surviving son lived 9 months. Ambroise had no heirs by the name Paray, in other words. His connection to our family is at best tenuous. It is intangible. So I'll stop there. If you get a chance, there's more to the essay, but I think that's a good stopping point. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was awesome. And I think if you look back through the chat, there's a lot that a lot of us connected with. So
yeah, I saw the notes. I kept wanting to read them. These are great. Thank you guys for these great notes.
Of course. All right, I will remove your spotlight. And
yeah, I love the chats because it recreates some of that instant feedback that you get in a live event. So it's nice. Well, it's not quite as instant, but you can go back and read it. Okay, so now we are gonna start with the This Is What America Looks Like readers. I thought I might throw it over to Jonah if he has the program up to introduce the first reader.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rachel. So our first reader tonight for poetry is Matt Honer. And Matt Honer holds an MFA from Naropa University, an editor for Loch Raven Review. Honer's first collection is Thresholds and Other Poems from Apprentice House in 2018. His next collection is forthcoming from Salmon Poetry in 2022. He is published in Prairie Schooner, Banalberries, Oberon, and elsewhere. He lives in Baltimore. Welcome, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonah, and thank you, Caroline, both for including me in this anthology. It's absolutely awesome. And I'm just going to read the one piece that's in the anthology. And here we go. Vacancy Inspection, Green Valley Road, Kemar, Maryland. A small American flag stuck on a fence post by the road hangs in tatters, disintegrated white stripes and stars rotted out from a blue field, now the color of nightfall. The few red stripes left, once the color of blood, droop, aged, and faded to pewter and tin. Delicate Queen Anne's lace, milkweed and chicory, lamb's quarter and horseweed, dark pokeweed berries and crimson spears of curly dock, all riot, unchecked in the rectangle of horse pasture out back by the barn. The insurgent wild claims its caliphate amidst the neighbors' manicured fields. Ashen, warped fence boards crack in the sun, weeds spill through the fence where the plywood shed leans at angles toward the ground. There's no hay in the barn, save for a straw strewn about, horse shits left in a few piles and corners, a parting gift to the creditors. The door swings wide to the air and wind, nothing left alive inside to shelter from weather or predators. Rabbit hutches bent and empty, stalls floors swept and dry. A fishing net resting on a line of nails on the wall. BB gun collecting dust on a workbench. A red radio flyer wagon, still as a corpse, sits where it was last towed, the child's laughter long since disembarked. Cowboy boots, worked sweat soft and dingy, slouch on a shelf next to a bailing hook. An old liquid fire extinguisher tank rusts in a corner. Up in a hayloft, a tire swing sways gently like a pendulum in the warm breeze through gaps in the slat walls and warped tin roof, measuring the slow tick of abandonment, the half-life of memory. Pushing past the broken patio door, piles of clothing and toys in countertop appliances in the basement, dumped there for the last haul in their flight away from the disaster. Bare rooms upstairs, the calendar on the kitchen wall last turned to a new month 5 years ago. Dates circled, times, places, and people's names scribbled in squares they never got to cross off. Unfinished kitchen remodel, leather bomber coat slumped on a chair, boots and shoes on the floor of the closet by the front door. The earth twirled and traveled through space and the money dried up. The house became the banks and the animals and humans all had to go. What remains? A thudding hush, cobwebs across the basement stairwell, the smell of stillness. A flag on a fence post, the color of bruises, the color of shrapnel. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. I was gonna see if Carolyn wanted to introduce the next reader, if you have the program up.
Sure, I do. Wow, I just have to say, how haunting a poem. Wow. The next reader is Kirsten Porter. Kirsten is an editor, a poet, a professor, and guest lecturer. Her poems have been featured in Poet Lore and the Limber Lost Review. Kirsten is the assistant to poet and literary activist E. Ethelbert Miller, who has also been a very good friend of the Washington Writers Publishing House, and is the editor of his collected poems of E. Ethelbert Miller, published by Willow Books. And she doesn't have this in her bio, but I know she is a major animal lover, especially dog lover.
It's true. It's true. I think I might just sell everything and just live with the dogs and do dog rescue. I've got 5 right now, and maybe during the break they will all join me, but only one bruiser is in the same room with me because the noise. I just, with 5 dogs, you just never know what's going to happen. But yeah, thank you so much. Caroline, thank you. Jonah, thank you. I feel so honored to be in this anthology with so many amazing writers. And thank you to the Interloop series. I'm looking forward to checking you out on the podcast. I didn't know this. So I'm so glad this has just been such a long time of disconnection, and events like this really help us come together. So I just want to read 2 pieces, short pieces. The first one is the one that I'm so lucky to have published in the anthology, and it's called Holes. 1. My cousin knew her for 9 months inside of her and 2 weeks out. She chose the name Olivia and waited until the baby was strong enough to endure the surgery. She knew the odds. Each day she held Olivia, she told her, "Please stay here with me. Keep breathing. I can't let you go." But the baby was too delicate and the surgery failed, and the hole in her heart could not be fixed. In the afternoon shadows, she held her. She told Olivia she had changed her mind. She whispered to her, "If you need to leave, if you're in too much pain, it's okay now. You can go." 2. In a hospital room, the sun slides in sideways through the blinds. My cousin sits in a metal chair and holds my hand. Inside the room, we listen to the IV drip and the staccato register of half a dozen patients' hearts being monitored at the nurse's station outside the door. My cousin waits until she thinks I have fallen asleep. She leans in close to me and whispers, "If you need to leave, if you're in too much pain, it's okay now." Then she is gone. 3. The phone is ringing from inside my house. I push through the door and grab the receiver on the 5th ring. "Hello?" It is my mother. She hasn't seen me in a while. "Am I feeling okay? Am I taking my medicine? How is the weather?" I say, "Mom, we live 20 minutes apart. The weather is the same. Rain." I do not tell her that I am short of breath again, that I'm dreaming about my cousin and Olivia, that there are holes in my roof. My mother tells me she means to call more and wants to say sorry for... I hear the familiar punching of her keyboard. I have taken up too much of her time. "Mom," I tell her, "it's okay now. You can go." When I fall asleep that night, it is to the whisper of the rain spilling into my pots and pans. And then, if it's okay, just one quick one. I am excited to be, there's a anthology coming out in April. Wait, that's soon, right? I don't know. This is pandemic. I can't remember the dates or anything, but it's called Voices of the Grieving Heart. And it's for anybody that's experienced loss during the pandemic. It could be due to COVID, or anybody that is trying to grieve during this time when grieving is hard to do together. So unfortunately, my family lost my cousin over the summer, and we had a hard time grieving for him. So this is called Pandemic Funeral. There is no body, no casket, no roses, just a computer screen of faces to say goodbye to you. My cousin, the lanky boy of my childhood, just a year older, a foot taller, bruised at the knee, quiet but kind, always kind. How do we send you off? Without a church, without hand-holding, without leftover soups and casseroles, the rituals of our grief achingly unobserved. We tell our stories, your stories, the sounds of our voices reaching through the screens, the way we touch each other when we remember you. Thank you.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. Jonah, would you like to introduce the next reader?
Sure. The next reader is, it's Courtney. Courtney Sexton. Absolutely, thank you. Courtney Sexton is a co-founder of the literary arts nonprofit, The Inner Loop. She is a DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities grant recipient and a 2020 AAAS Mass Media Fellow. Work appears in The Fourth River, Juxtaprose, Sage, Smithsonian, District Fray, and elsewhere. She received her MFA from Sarah Lawrence College, man, that's like my dream MFA school, and is currently researching a dissertation on human-canine coevolution.
Okay, I was trying to be tech guru and also pay attention to what I was supposed to be doing. I actually forgot for a moment that I was reading tonight, so I'm sorry. But yeah, Kirsten, we have a lot to talk about. Read dogs. There also seem to be some themes here that I think we've all just been sitting with for the past year. So I will read one of the poems from the anthology briefly, and then I think an excerpt from a short essay, depending on how loud Sandra gets over here. So this is Kingman Lake, and for those of you who know DC, they are working on a ecological redevelopment of Kingman Island. So we will see what that looks like. Honeysuckle through the fence, teeth on this island, in the middle of a city caught in the middle of a century. They built heritage, dredged the banks of the Anacostia, and poured silt like through a sieve until you couldn't see the river anymore, but around it. They said, now you sit there and stay, Nakok-chink no more. They said, it's for the children. Then let the sludge carnival roll slowly down the backside of the divide. Now 4 black legs dangle from the dock without touching the water. Under the surface, an extra limb could grow, or one never form, just be the trace of an isotopic glow. So what asylum, what refuge there is in abandonment, only the heron could say, great blue-gray, but he won't look you in the eyes as he wades knee-deep through hypoxia toward Buzzard's Point. Okay, so that is that one, and thank you all for publishing it. And this is an excerpt from a little bit of a longer essay that was published this past fall, but feels relevant now as we come upon a year from when this part was written. So March comes this year and the whole world is in hiding. I am back in New Jersey where my grandmother is inside of her dark house dying, and I am walking her property with a dog who is not Remy, that's my dog, but a tired terrier she took in after another old woman died and left him behind. Her small parcel of land once seemed infinitely vast. Carrots and tomatoes in the garden at the end of the long yard were miles away in my mind. It is not so. We walk well beyond the no-go zone of my childhood, down to the small creek that breaks the land from the narrow band of trees just hiding the highway on the other side. Snowdrops and skunk cabbage unfurl on the banks. When I was young, this is where the horses used to come. At feeding time, I would climb and hang on the big blue metal horse gate as it swung slowly on its hinges and dragged across the ground, stretching my neck just like the mares to catch a glimpse of them, awaiting my chance to be allowed a flat-handed offering of a carrot or an apple or a vanilla shortbread. The horses are long gone, and so is the fence and the gate, and the barn is now full of junk. An old lawnmower, refrigerator, air conditioning unit, all missing or needing some part or another. Rusted tools labeled in duct tape and blue Sharpie with our last name in capital letters, SEXTON. Outside the half-open barn door, the ground is soggy, and I picture the shape of horse hooves in the mud. Grass grows over the bones of the dogs and ducks and ponies in our pet cemetery. Tippy, Murphy, Dustin, Smiling Lady, Quackers, Sir Lancelot. I conjure their likenesses in my mind as I try to tally how many remains would end up rising through the muck if the creek ever flooded. My grandmother always said she would die in a flood. She dreamt of a great tidal wave swallowing her whole, her soul finally free from the purgatory of her earthbound body. She loved to swim. Before it took over her, that same large body would float for hours on end in the Atlantic, for once weightless. It must have been during those hours that she first imagined simply slipping beneath the surface where, if she was lucky, she might find, being oxygen deprived, the similarly floating souls of her children and husbands who'd passed before her, who we weren't, and for whom we would never be enough of a consolation. Or it could have started before me and before our summers at the shore, but perhaps in those few short years when, as the other heart stopped, her world caved in over her head over and over again, just like drowning without waking up dead. Or maybe even long before then, when she, a child by the sea, stood on the dirty Long Island sand, staring out across the Sound, the place of her girlhood, where, at 12, she was mortified when her mother made her strip naked and change on the beach like a toddler. Regardless, whenever the vision of the flood had come, it was shared by a fortune-telling woman who read the stars and the cards, and my grandmother believed so it would be, and thus she told it to me. I suppose in a way it is a flood, or more like 83 years leading up to one without a final catastrophe tsunami, a steady rising of untenable waters within and around her body, some levees holding, swollen ankles and legs, debris blocking organs that back up in protest like abused storm drains. All the while, blood slowly moving through the usual pathways, small streams pooling into eddies of bruise on her cold hands. One heart cannot hold such heaviness. And that's that.
I'm Courtney's biggest fan. I love that essay.
Yay.
So beautiful. Thank you. Okay, Caroline, do you want to throw to the next reader?
Well, so it's technically intermission time.
I'm not
We're there already. So I'm gonna set up some breakout rooms for the brave. Hang tight if you want to join one. Please feel free. It's 8:23. We will let's meet back here at 8:34. And
Saunders cracking me up.
He's driving me nuts right now. All right, breakout rooms. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna do.
I was gonna say, did you really do it that fast?
What? No, I'm about to. Okay, they're assigning. Great. All right, everyone. All right, 8:23. See you back here at 8:34. I'm opening all the rooms.
Apologize for the misspelling of her name in the context page of our beautiful book. Everything else was okay, right, Serena? It was just the content page.
Yep,
So that's my full responsibility, and I apologize. But Serena is such a champion of literature in our area, which I'm sure many and many, many of you know, and just tireless and so wonderful. So I'm really pleased to introduce her this evening. So thank you to the Inner Loop for this. So Serena Augusto Cox was one of the first featured readers of the diverse Gaithersburg reading series. Poems are in Broadkill Review, Hill Rag, Virgin, and elsewhere. Work appears in Made Priceless, Love is Love, an anthology for the LGBTQA+ teens, and Everyday Book Marketing. She operates book review blog Saveverse and Wit, which everyone should check out, and poetic book tours. So thank you so much, Serena.
Thank you, Jonah, and thank you, Caroline, for choosing my poem. The poem I'm going to read is from the anthology. It's actually part of a series of poems I wrote. It's called America Is. America is my immigrant father who shares his horticulturist spirit, an aging American who saw both his parents succumb. With each pass of the John Deere, he leaves a bit of the past in each flower, bush, and edged bed, a wake that can be scooped, mulched, and remembered. The humming machine echoes, drowning out the songbirds who call spring, bring forth new life under the clouded sun. His hands weathered as the ocean would batter in any wooden boat, filled with Azorian ancestors halfway home. Thank you.
Okay, Carolyn, do you want to introduce the next reader?
So our next reader is, my screen just went dark, is Len Kruger. Do I have that right? Yes, Len Kruger, who wrote a fabulous flash fiction piece, is a graduate of the MFA program in creative writing at the University of Maryland. His short fiction has appeared in numerous publications, including Zoetrope All Story, Barcelona Review, and Gargoyle. And he recently retired from the Library of Congress and lives in Washington, D.C. And I am very happy to have Len read his work now.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you also, Jonah, and very honored to be in the anthology, and also thank you to Inner Loop, which also always puts on great events. I'm going to read three very short pieces. The first is one that appeared in the anthology, It's called I'm Not Sorry, America. The show is called I Hate Myself, America's Most Self-Loathing. Contestants stand in front of a studio audience and spend 60 seconds recounting a shameful episode from their past, a persuasive piece of evidence that supports their uncompromising self-hatred. The ratings are huge. I am a contestant. Opening rounds. Much fluff eliminated. A story about forgetting someone's birthday, about standing up a first date, about hitting a parked car and not leaving a note. Please. I go with how I betrayed a lifelong friend 3 separate times, as a child, a teen, and an adult. Forsake, rinse, repeat, I say, picking the finish. I make the semifinals. My philanthropic embezzlement story does the trick. No regrets, no apologies. America eats it up. I advance to the finals. My opponent goes first, his mouth in a continuous smirk, fear simmering in his eyes. He goes old school, bragging about how he broke all 10 commandments in no particular order. I can beat that. I spend all 60 seconds silent. I stare at the studio audience, scanning their upturned faces, lips licked in anticipation of my spectacular perfidy. Behind me on the stage, a bright neon sign flashes the franchise slogan, "No heroes, only villains." I leer at the blinking red light of the camera. I burrow into the hearts and minds of millions watching nationwide. I etch America's souls with their self-manufactured shame. The votes are tallied. I win. All hail the bastard king. My reign will be long and full of sorrow. This next piece is called Plural Marriage. Yes. We have our roles. Brad fixes the stuff and mows the lawn. Jim plays with spreadsheets. Larry supplies the romance. I'm Carl. I do empathy. I sense unhappiness, I say to her. Correct, she says. The house meeting goes poorly. Jim and Larry fight over the Valentine's Day budget. Brad rages over a broken toilet handle. I facilitate. Let's focus on solutions, I say. She walks off, a bad sign. All marriages present challenges, I say, following her down the hallway. Money, sex, bathroom tiles. She stops and faces me. It's not that, she says. Then what, I say. She looks away. There's someone else. And my last piece is called Debriefing. Having shed his earthly form, he returned to his home planet. It was a triumphant welcome, parades, honors, medals. He entered the Hall of Heroes and filed a full report. Their world is a mess. Poison, cruelty, strife, video screens always on, nonsense blaring, cages proliferating. The food sucks in such small portions. They lack unity. Their defenses are primitive. They don't know what they don't know. Conclusion, all there for the taking. Addendum, recommend leniency for my caretakers. There will be no invasion. We won't see him again. We miss our dog. Thank you.
The dogs have it tonight.
Had to work that one in.
That was great. So I will introduce Kristen Kowalski-Farragut, who is another total champion of literature and the literary scene in our region. If you guys don't know her, you need to know her and check her out because she's totally amazing. And okay, I'll read the bio. Kristen Kowalski-Farragut writes, teaches, plays guitar, hikes, supports her children in becoming who they are meant to be. That's lovely. And enjoys the vibrant writing community in the DMV. Her work has appeared in Beltway Quarterly, Nightingale and Sparrow, Virgin, Mojave He Art Review, Anti-Heroin Chic, and Fledgling Rag, among others. I think we're in Fledgling Rag together, actually. But Kristen, thank you.
Kristen, you're on mute.
Am I still? Can you hear me now?
Good, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. I'm so honored to be here. This has been such an amazing reading, so much beautiful, powerful work. I really appreciate it. I love the breakout room. I got to know Leah, and that was really, really fun. Super smart, and I can't wait to check out more of her work, as well as so many of the other writers I've heard here. It's great stuff. So thank you. And I'm very grateful to be in the anthology and to now know about the inner loop. I'm going to read my poem in the anthology, The County Fair. Outside the tilt-a-whirl, I seek thin 1 o'clock shade left of a hat booth, all audience and smiles, waiting. If he were here, we'd already have kissed 4 times, under Genesis twice, outside alien abduction. Now, I'd squint in the sun after offering him shade. Never mind the sting of red peeling, freckles deepened by sun, even when teased by the mean kids. My kid, eyes fixed on me, the compass rose, jumps off the ride, runs back in line so fast I'm dizzy. Squeeze my fingers hard to ground myself. If he were here, we'd be holding hands, weighed down by a backpack with 6 liters of water, by now smushed PB&Js and flannels unneeded until after dark. I'd still rise on tiptoes to find his lips, while my boy spun too fast to notice, and the county fair would be as charming as false nostalgia for the 50s, fitting right in with our romance. We'd say voices beneath shouting carnies, gas generators, and music wailing, hold on to me. Thank you.
Okay, I now have the hang of this. I am so thrilled to introduce Melanie Hatter, who is a member of the Washington Writers Publishing House. And you may ask, how do you get to be a member? We are an all-volunteer, nonprofit, cooperative press that was started as a hippie collective in 1975 by the likes of Grace Cavalieri and others. So how do you become a member? Well, every year except for 2020 when we published the anthology, we do an open call for poetry manuscripts and fiction manuscripts. And we publish one a year, and we will publish one in 2022. And when you're published, you become a member of the press forever. It's like you're always a part of it. And we do ask people to judge contests, and we ask people to help run the website. And we are a loose group of hippie-inspired writers. Is that okay, Melanie? And Melanie is one of our members. She is an award-winning author of 2 novels and a short story collection. Her work, Malawi Sisters, was selected by the beautiful Haitian-American writer Edwin Dandicott and won the inaugural Kimblio National, and I hopefully said that right, Kimblio National Fiction Prize, and it was published by 4-Way Books in 2019. The Color of My Soul won the 2011 Washington Writers Publishing House Fiction Prize, and her wonderful short story is in our new collection. Just one last thing before I hand this over to Melanie. Our contest for 2022 will open July 1st. So make sure you follow us on Facebook so that you get reminders of when we open our contest for next year. But now, Melanie and her searing short story.
Gosh, yes. WWPH, Family for Life. They're my first publishing house. So yeah, they're always in my heart. And I'm so, so excited to be part of this collection. Caroline and Jonah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, Angel in Pink. Maggie reached for another Oreo and leaned back into the couch, dunking the cookie in her milk. She sucked on it before smooshing the sweet goodness into paste in her mouth. Next to her, Poppy lay sprawled, crushing Maggie's thigh. Her favorite actor was kicking in a door, gun drawn, in an old episode of Criminal Minds. She'd seen this one before, but was just as eager to watch the story play out, see the good guys take down another perverted unsub. A knock roused Poppy off the couch, and she ran barking to the door, ears flopping madly. Maggie took a second before setting her glass on the table and moving slowly toward the door. She rarely received visitors, and when she did, they were well planned in advance. Peeking through the peephole, she saw a young girl dressed in pink. Maggie lifted Poppy into her arms, which always silenced the Cocker Spaniel, and opened the door. "Please help." The girl's panic came through in a whisper. "My dad is hurting my mom. I need to call the police." The words came in a flood, and for a second, Maggie couldn't move. Her heart and breath stopped as the girl's crumpled face engulfed her own body. She dumped Poppy on the hardwood floor, and the dog ran in circles, letting out a few short barks as Maggie rushed to get the phone on the side table by the couch. The girl stayed at the door until Maggie beckoned her inside. "Just ignore the dog. She won't hurt you." Without thinking, Maggie handed the phone to the girl, who appeared unsure of what to do with this bulky house phone that few people had in their homes anymore. Maggie took it back, but hesitated before dialing 911. She'd never called the police before, never had to. The last 40 years had been blessedly benign. After high school, she'd studied business management at Bowie State, had wanted to attend Texas Southern, but couldn't afford the out-of-state fees, had gotten a job at a marketing firm and had made a decent, though unremarkable, career in that field. Never married, though if Warren had asked her, she would have said yes. But he hadn't. He dumped her after 3 years and married someone else the following year. Perhaps as a distraction or a salve, Maggie had raided her savings account, put a down payment on her townhouse, adopted a dog, and chose a life in which she never had to call the police. She pressed the speaker button and let the girl explain the situation to the dispatcher. It was 8:52 p.m. The front door was still open, though the screen door had closed. The girl paced back and forth by the coffee table as she spoke to the dispatcher, explaining where she lived and that her father was hitting her mom, that she had escaped the apartment and run. The girl wore no shoes, just fluffy pink socks. She was all chubby cuteness that belied the words coming from her mouth. Before high school, Maggie's life had been less benign. Memories from that period had been buried so far down that what surfaced now felt like images from a television show. Her mother, her father. She didn't want to remember. Maggie's house sat on a hill, and she peered through the glass screen door at the dark street below. She heard police sirens in the distance, but time seemed to wait with her before 2 county police cruisers finally stopped in front of the girl's apartment building. Before ending the call, the dispatcher had asked to speak with Maggie, who confirmed her name and address, that she was a neighbor, that she lived across the street from the girl. As she replaced the phone to its cradle, Maggie wondered why the girl had picked her door. She turned off the television. "What's your name?" "Angel." "I'm 11, she added. She had round cheeks and cornrows that swirled across her head, flowing into braids that dangled with pink and white beads around her shoulders. She wore a bright pink t-shirt and matching leggings. "Sit down if you like. Want some water?"
Angel nodded and sat on the edge of the couch as if ready to jump up at any moment. Maggie filled a small glass with water from the jug in the refrigerator. You can have a cookie too. She pointed to the pack on the table as she gave Angel the glass. In the same panicked way she had knocked at the door, the girl gulped down all the water. Maggie took a seat in the armchair opposite the couch. But staying seated seemed wrong, so she kept getting up to see what was happening outside. I'm going to end there. And if you want to know what happens in the end, you got to buy the book.
Good plug.
Melanie, I was following along. I was going through. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, all right. I love it. Thank you. Thank you again.
I love your voice on it, Melanie, too. I have to say, it brought like a whole other dimension to the story. I mean, maybe on the podcast, hint, hint, CNR, this would be a fabulous story to have read. Just a hint.
All these plugs tonight.
But thank you, Melanie. I'll hand it over to Jonah.
And to piggyback on that, Caroline, just to hear all these wonderful threads and some of the comments as well. You know, you put together an anthology, and I was working on the poetry, and Caroline was working with fiction, and of course, we would talk and have meetings every other week. But to hear how these kind of all work together, into really this wonderful. It's this robust, with all these wonderful threads in this book, and it's wonderful to hear them come to life. So, thank you all. And last but not least is Hayes Davis. Hello, Hayes. Let me read your amazing biography this evening. Okay, so Hayes Davis is the author of Let Our Eyes Linger, Poetry Mutual Press. His work appears in many journals and anthologies. He was a member of Connie Conham's first cohort of fellows. A high school English teacher, he lives in Silver Spring with his wife, poet Terry Ellen Cross Davis. And do I see there's Terry. Terry and I graduated from American University, MFA. Totally awesome to see you there, Terry. And Hayes, thank you so much. All yours.
Thank you. I am going to continue with another thread from earlier. I hadn't thought of reading this poem, but you'll see why I chose to do it. Nursing home. Mommy D recognizes my diploma. Her smile reaches her eyes. She parts her lips and mumbles a string of words her mind has tried to sort into a sentence. She's almost as happy about my degree as she was when I walked in the room. I think of the day my mother received her master's from Penn, and I'm glad that my grandmother could speak her joy clearly then. As pleased as I am that she can spill messy, jubilant recognition when I come to visit, I feel a little guilty that Mom has to call herself Bethy to answer the inevitable, "Who are you?" coax a smile of semi-memory. The fact that Mommy D recalls my face, if not my name, makes me uneasy when I think of my Uncle Conrad, who is never Henry, brother, or another alias used to mask the disease, just a man with a beard who never stays for as long as he is driven to visit. Even my Aunt Annette, who shares that name with her mother, lives in the same city and visits more often than me, is never someone Mommy D knows on sight. I put my diploma away, produce graduation pictures hesitantly, reluctant to identify 3 children to their mother. This second poem appeared in Mom Egg Review about a year ago. And if you don't know, James Earl Jones, voice of Darth Vader, stage, screen actor, stuttered and was actually self-imposed mute for 8 years in between ages 6 and 14. So this is a poem about his family about him moving north. He was born in Arcabutla, Mississippi, and moved north with his grandparents. Manistee, Michigan. James Earl Jones at 6. My uncles, cousins, sorry, I'll start over. My cousins, uncles as young as me, call the place we are going Meat Skin as we ride north from Mississippi, laughter cloaking their uncertainty of what waits up north. I sit silent beside them, beginning the muteness I will carry the next 8 years before high school, before a poem pulls the sword of my voice from the stone of my stutter. Wear long sleeves, Papa's letter had said, but even with arms covered, the step from the train pebbles my skin. I shudder as much from the new as the cold. Can I trust these smiling white faces? Why does the air smell thinner? I follow my family from train to truck, cradle my knees, riding in the bed, crates and luggage bouncing on the unpaved road, wind muffling my cousins' exclamations as they pass new trees, arrive at the land coaxed from sandy to fertile by Papa, one of the grandparents I chose over my wandering mother, the father I will know much later. The grove that shades the new house offers a place where I won't intrude. If I'm out of the way, they might not make me leave. I play alone for hours under the elms and maples, speak only to the cars I make from sticks and wooden spools, create roads on which they drive. My voice glides in the easy shade, doesn't hitch or sputter like in Sunday school where psalms and verses, plosives and hard consonants catch in my throat while behind me children succumb to fits of quiet giggles and whispered imitations. But my cars and the livestock I talk to offer no judgment. Never tell me say it again. Say it louder, say it smoother in this new lonely place. And thank you, Jonah. Thank you to all the readers. This has just been just a great night. I'm so honored to be part of this anthology, and I've really enjoyed hearing everyone read tonight. So last poem from the anthology, Urgent Care. The skeletal image of my son's hand drops my jaw. The ghostly white and gray digits usually seen on costumes, movie screens, Day of the Dead memorials are only gentle tapering and widening, rounded ends and imagined cartilage, no muscle, and, it dawns on me, no skin. He is stripped, literally, to the bone, race replaced by the strict fact of phalanx, carpals, metacarpals. For 4 minutes, during the doctor's diagnosis and the brief quiet before we leave this private room, he is only boy, only limited by metal splint with blue padding. Doctor's orders to play gently. Thank you.
Wow. What an amazing reading just by everyone. This has just been so amazing. Thank you to all the readers. Thanks to Carolyn and Jonah. Courtney, what do you have to say?
I'm so glad that we got to collaborate for this anthology, but also want to thank again Elizabeth for joining us. And we're sorry to all of you that it couldn't be in person. Elizabeth, I know we
Thank you
for a while. We're glad you were.
Thank you guys. It was so great.
Great to finally have you.
Loved it.
Lots of people have workout. I am amazed at how prolific everyone has been during this crazy time. So please take a look at the.
Throw your links in the chat real quick before everybody heads up. Yeah. Self-promote. It's shameless here. We don't mind. Just throw that link in there. We'll look frantically.
In addition to the anthology, which Carolyn posted where you can purchase it, and that's also in the program. But yes, please throw it on up there. I put a link to the residency application. We will be back as Interloop virtually next month on April 20th. As Rachel said, for our anniversary event. This is eight seasons?
7 years.
7 years, 8 seasons, right? We always mess that up. And we do it for you. I mean, we do it for us too. It's kind of selfish, but
It's so selfish.
Always selfish. But you all make it possible. So we feel very fortunate. But yeah, it was great getting to know so many new writers and see so many back, returned. Len, it was good to hear your voice again. But yeah, I'll stop rambling. We're getting there, right? We're like, there's hope.
So close. I'm gonna ramble a little bit more because I see all these websites coming through, but I want people to have a chance to click on them before we kick everybody out.
Has it only been 7 years?
Yeah. It makes me feel really old all of a sudden.
Because I just, that's amazing. And I'll just throw this out there and then I'll stop. When I first had my first book was published about 2 years ago. Same time as Caroline's, we got one of the prizes together. And she said, hey, why don't you, I was always looking to her. She's kind of always been, with Caroline, like just ask Caroline and she'll know. And so I would ask Caroline, she said, why don't you check out the Interloop? I was like, okay. And you guys were just so kind and welcoming and just, again, champions of the literary scene and so supportive. And thank you so much. You give so much and just really appreciate it. It's a wonderful community that you're creating. So thank you both.
Thank you. That's so nice.
Like, we're not creating it.
I was gonna say the community's already here. We just created a space.
You're highlighting it. You're showcasing. Right?
I'll never talk with my hands.
I just have to say ditto. Whatever Jonah says, I always agree with. You guys are wonderful.
And just to highlight, I threw this up. I seriously finished this. Melanie, I know I feel bad, don't judge, but I finished Malawi Sisters about 2 weeks ago. I had started it. This is phenomenal, everyone. So shout out.
Thank you, Jonah. Thank you.
No, I bought this. It was anyways. It's my bad. It took so long, but it's absolutely beautiful and stunning.
I will go back through the chat transcript and try to compile all these links and maybe post them in the Facebook event so folks can see them.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Mhm.